Welcome to the March 6th board meeting, APS board meeting tonight. Would our interpreter, Sandra Foster, please come to the microphone to make the announcement regarding the availability of interpretation services?
Levante la mano y les puedo alcanzar un auricular de interpretación. Gracias. Thank you.
Gracias a usted. Would the color guard please present the colors and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Juro fidelidad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa una nación bajo Dios, invisible, con libertad y justicia para todos.
Thank you. You may be seated. Please join me in a moment of silence in honor of all the APS graduates who have lost their lives while serving our country. Welcome to tonight's board meeting, and thank you for coming. We would like to recognize the color guard tonight from the Albuquerque High School Army JROTC under the instruction of Sergeant First Class Polvey. Would the instructor and students please come to the microphone and introduce themselves?
Good afternoon. I am Cadet First Lieutenant Jocelyn Diaz, and I'm the battalion commander at Albuquerque High School's JRTC program. Our left rifleman is Cadet Master Sergeant Elijah Varela. Our New Mexico flag is Cadet Sergeant Evelyn Ortiz. Our right rifleman is Cadet Master Sergeant Eric Castillo. And our U.S. flag is Cadet Second Lieutenant Max Oshoka.
And I'm Sergeant First Class Povey, the Army instructor for Albuquerque High School Junior RTC.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to have you here. Would you please come up so that we may personally thank you? May we please have the roll call?
Here.
Here.
Here. Candelaria Patterson.
Here.
Elizabeth Armijo.
Here.
Dr. David Piercy.
Here.
Thank you. Do I have a motion and a second for the adoption of the March 6, 2019 Board of Education meeting agenda and approval of the February 6, 2019 Board of Education meeting minutes and the January 28, 2019 Special Board of Education meeting minutes?
So move.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. The next agenda item is a discussion of the officer and committee chair elections. So let me read some of the steps that we need to take. Nominations and elections of board officers for president, vice president, secretary, and committee chairs will be conducted tonight. We will begin with the nominations and election of board officers and then follow with the election of committee chairs. The term of office for all officers and chairs shall be 1 year. Officers and chairs may serve successive terms of office. And before I give each board member a few moments to speak about your particular interest in specific board positions and committees, I want to mention an additional possibility. Due to the new election laws that call for the election of school board members to be held in November, another possibility is to vote to keep the same roster of officers and committee chairs until the next organizational meeting in January of 2020. If you would like to pursue that option, could I please have a motion to keep the same roster of officers and committee chairs until the next organizational meeting in January 2020?
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Just a point of order. Point of order. Yeah. Just for the board's knowledge, Peggy Miller-Argan is not here, but she has given a preference to Brenda and saying that to have everybody be in the same position would be fine with her. And so I just want to let everybody know that, so that, you know, typically in this kind of a situation, we really like to have it be unanimous. Otherwise, we feel like that wouldn't be, you know, honoring each individual in terms of what they have. But I just want to let you know that Peggy has given us that authority to say for her, at least. It's not a formal vote, but she has said that that's fine with her. So I just want to let everybody know that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Yes.
I mean, I'll just say that I really appreciate the leadership that each individual board member is giving in the role. And although I think there are other positions that they would do, you know, I think we all contribute equally well in other positions. It seems like we're just getting our feet on the ground and digging into some work that really needs to be attended to. So I'm more than supportive of this.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, we'll take a vote by roll call if there's no objection. Any objection to that?
No.
So, Ms. Newman, may you please do the roll call?
Yolanda Montoya Cordova.
Yes.
Peggy Mueller-Aragon. Lorenzo Garcia.
Yes.
Barbara Peterson. Yes. Candelaria Patterson.
Yes.
Elizabeth Armijo.
Yes.
Dr. David Piercy.
Yes.
Okay, so I think that ends my role here this evening, and I will pass this on to President Piercy.
Thank you. I do want to say that, you know, a lot of times it is good to move around, but I think, again, I really appreciate what the board members are contributing. You know, they're not only contributing to their individual areas, but they're contributing to the community. Every single one of our board members here is active with the community. They're active with their constituents, but they're active with more than their constituents. They go to meetings, they go to forums, they go to events. I mean, I am very proud of the fact that this board is active. And they're very knowledgeable. They're knowledgeable in a lot of areas that are very technical. And I just want to say that I think this is a great board. So thank you very much, board. Appreciate it.
To you.
Okay. I think we go on to, well, I'll have to see. I'll have to get it in the right place.
Public forum.
I think it's a public forum, but that goes on to our secretary, who is Yolanda Montoya Cordova. Thank you,
All right.
Yolanda.
Thank you. I've got stuff in front of me, so I'm good. Yeah. All right, so whether you are here with a request for the Board of Education to consider, provide information, or just see how the Board of Education operates, we want you to know that you are welcome. The Board of Education has established rules for expected civil behavior during the meeting and public forum. Upon signing in to speak tonight, you received a signature form and a copy of the procedural directive, which outline those rules for expected behavior. The presiding officer will enforce these rules as appropriate throughout the meeting. The Open Meetings Act, NMSA 1978, Chapter 10, Article 15, requires that agendas contain a list of specific items to be discussed or acted on at meetings. Due to these rules, public forum is not a dialogue with board members. Public forum is an opportunity for the Board of Education to listen to you and hear your comments. Tonight there are 10 speakers, so to accommodate the greatest number of speakers, each speaker will have 2 minutes for comments within the 45-minute public forum. The time remaining to speak will appear on the screen in front of you, and at the end of the given time, please complete your sentence quickly so that other speakers will have a chance to speak. You may not yield your unused time to another speaker. You are always welcome to submit additional comments to the board in writing if you're unable to convey your message or you're not able to speak within the 45-minute public forum time. The Board of Education encourages you to stay for the entirety of the meeting so you may listen to board member comments before we adjourn. And only at this time may your concerns be addressed at the discretion of each board member. Right, so I'm going to call up the first 3 speakers, and if you could just line up at the podium, that would be great. The first one is Deborah Norman. Second one is Tony Watkins. And third is Francesca Bloor.
Was this mine?
I think I said that right. Hopefully I did. So we'll go in the order that we called you up. So, Deborah?
Okay, thank you. Board President Piercy, members of the board, and Superintendent Reedy. The Antiracism Training Institute of the Southwest, RT, invites APS leadership to join the City of Albuquerque and UNM at an intensive 2-day Undoing Racism workshop, May 4th to 5th this year, and some of the board members have already participated in these workshops. Our organization is a project of United South Broadway Corporation, which worked with the Institute for Democratic Renewal in Claremont, California, and the UNM Institute of Public Law to develop training and education that addresses institutional racism. We've been doing this since 2004 and have trained 1,200 community academic and government leaders throughout New Mexico. Our approach is distinct from cultural competency training, which focuses on the ability to appreciate and interpret other cultures accurately. RD workshops go deeper to ensure that New Mexico's leaders gain a shared analysis and common vocabulary of what racism is in order to uproot it by building alliances both within and outside their organizations. They learn that institutional racism, as opposed to individual bigotry or prejudice, is systemic and is the intentional or unconscious subordination of specific racial groups through organizational practices and norms. We'd like to meet and talk with both the APS superintendent or designee and the APS board president or designee about this invitation within the next week, and look forward to APS's participation in this exciting, timely, and essential initiative to undo racism in New Mexico. Thank you very much.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tony Watkins. I'm with Families United for Education. We're just here to stand in solidarity with Debbie and Artie in encouraging you to commit not only to the May 4th and 5th Undoing Racism workshop, but also an ongoing institutional commitment to actually fund Undoing Racism workshops. Families United has been organizing these workshops with Artie and others for about 10 years now, and we don't have a budget. We just do this on our own time, and we have developed trainings that are based on the principles of the People's Institute, but there's nothing like an actual Undoing Racism training with the People's Institute, with their core trainers. And so that's really the bedrock of our capacity building in the community. So it's a real privilege to be at the table with them when they do those workshops and to be mentored by them, and we want to just invite you along. And the timing's perfect because the city is also stepping up to institutionalize the trainings in their institution. So imagine the power of the city and APS both committing ongoing funding to these workshops. Because once a year, once every 2 years, just isn't cutting it. We need it systemic, and we need to be training more principals, more administrators, more teachers in partnership with our students. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Francesca Bloor, and I'm a retired APS elementary school teacher. I'm here in support of APS implementing anti-racism training. I took a 2-day Artie anti-racism course several years ago at the end of my teaching career. I reeled from the experience and the profound effect it had and continues to have on me. It was mind-blowing, uncomfortable, exhausting, and liberating. My one regret is that I didn't take this decades earlier. The enormous takeaway from the 2-day workshop was that the true power of racism is not in the individual, but in our institutions. Together, we examined and learned about the power dynamics of institutional racism, which is foundational in our housing, healthcare, justice, economic, political, and education systems. Most importantly, the 2-day training made me reflect on my complicity in these institutions through my actions, perspective, and choices. I realized that the great hope to undo systemic racism is to first acknowledge its historical roots, think about the current status of institutional racism, and then reflect on our complicity with that system. The 2-day training affected my teaching every moment of every day, from the books I chose to read aloud, to setting up our class library, to parent-teacher conferences, to organizing field trips, to building a curriculum, to facilitating more interpersonal communications, to developing a classroom culture that questions our institutions. Ongoing anti-racism training embedded in APS could have the potential to transform our public schools from institutions that maintain and enforce the status quo to places of learning that are undoing and dismantling systemic racism.
Our next 3 speakers, Karen Kiefer, Matilda Walker, I hope I said that right, and Shana Patel, I hope I said that correct too.
Good evening. Good evening. I chose to move to New Mexico 22 years ago for the culture and the diversity that the state has. And this is my 18th year in New Mexico working for APS. I am a product of America's public school system, and I was raised learning about my culture's history. Far too often for my students, though, they don't have that same experience. As adults who have been raised within institutions that teach a Eurocentric history, it's natural and normal for us to perpetuate what we know And we see that all the time in our classrooms, from the materials that are chosen to the things that are said to the opportunities our students are given. And so I really believe, and I know that you, the board, has a great opportunity here, not only as the largest district in the state, but also as one of the districts that has the largest diversity, to undo some of the racism that is present in our institutions. I have conversations with my colleagues that a lot of times I say, I'm not racist, I don't see race, it doesn't matter to me. And as Ms. Bloor said, the issue is people don't understand their complicity with this until they are pushed to choose to do so. So I am here to ask that you provide us educators with more training and more information, and that these conversations become a normal part of our district so that we can serve the students that we have in our classrooms better. Thank you.
Hi, APS Board. I too would like to encourage you to implement the Undoing Racism training by RT into your institution, and mainly with the hope that it will affect larger curriculum change that supports anti-racism and decolonization. I was born in Albuquerque. I went to a public school and a private school, and I am a first-generation European Jewish American person, and that sounds an oxymoron, first-generation European American, to a lot of white people. But I have grown up white on what I consider Albuquerque to be Greater Chaco land. So this is sacred land that's never been ceded. And when I consider that continuation of oppression, I would like to see the same amount of continuous effort to work against racism. My graduation high school speech, not mine, the one I received, the one I listened to, as well as from my, all of my schools, essentially, all of my teachers, my middle school down, have asked me, you know, grow up, go out, travel, learn, but come back. And I've done that, and I couldn't see a greater purpose in life to really try to promote this justice, and I just love to see it happen in an, as an ideological change. There's like no excuse in my opinion. Yeah, thank you.
Good evening, members of the board and superintendent. My name is Shana Patel, and I work for the New Mexico Asian Family Center. As an agency, I'm here to urge you as members of the board to allocate funding for ongoing anti-racism trainings. This would be a step towards addressing racism in our community and an active way to combat and undo structural racism. Our students need to be supported and heard. They can't be if they're in environments that don't see them and don't uplift them. Please support our students by funding ongoing anti-racism trainings for both educators and teachers and everyone in the system. Thank you.
Our next two speakers, Janet Sayers and Verlin Coker.
Good evening, members of the board, President Piercy, Superintendent Reedy, and distinguished members of the APS staff. And I'm going to have two hats on tonight. Well, I'm Janet Sayers. So I have my Del Norte hat on, but I also do New Mexico history. And I cornered Dr. Gonzalez and found out that he can get me some brochures to the person in charge of social studies. So we, our New Mexico History Conference is at the end of March at the Embassy Suites right here in Albuquerque, and teachers can all come for free. That is, free with a capital F. And we want them to come. They would need, if they come on Friday, they would need to get a day of personal leave. But if they just can come on Saturday morning. So he's going to hand those out to the right person. So thank you for doing that, and we do encourage those high school teachers who teach New Mexico history to be able to participate. So then with my Del Norte hat on, again, I want to thank the 3 businesses at the corner of San Mateo and Montgomery that are so good to our Alumni Association. That's the Starbucks, who gives us free coffee every month for teacher appreciation. And then the Chick-fil-A, who's helped us on a lot of things with food. And then the Albertsons, who's been giving us gift cards to help buy some of the items that we do. And then last Sunday, I had the opportunity to be with some of my Del Norte alumni, who are a lot younger than I am. But we did a fundraiser at Holiday Bowl. We raised about $1,000, which we are splitting with the ROTC students who participated, and we'll use the rest for different alumni activities. So that's my report for the night, and congratulations to the newly elected officers.
Hi, my name is Verlin Coker, and I have 3 major points of contention for today. The first one being is the last equity and inclusion meeting that I was at, there was a public forum after one of the agenda items. Per your usual procedure for that type of meeting, the limit is 3 minutes. That person had gone over for 3 minutes and 20 seconds, and no method was made in order to notify her that she went ahead of her time. As well, there was even a conversation between one board member and that public forum speaker, which is in direct violation of what you quote as the Open Meetings Act. And do I need to remind you that the Equity and Inclusion meeting is the first meeting that the Indigenous community was at, that you had really enforced these procedures, and having this dichotomy between how you act towards this one individual versus the entire Indigenous community is in itself based in racism, and it is a problem. Secondly, I need to make sure that you understand your own code of ethics. One of the main points, point 4 to be specific, is that you need to establish an open, two-way communication process with students, staffs, families, and all segments of the community. In regards of communication with myself, aside from 2 of you, all of you have failed in this regard. As a former student and as a representative of my family, you need to meet with me and have these conversations. More importantly, I have been in contact with the Johnsons, the family of one of the students affected at the Siebel High School, and they request that you put them on the agenda, or the entire Indigenous community on the agenda at some point. You need to set up a quorum. It needs to be on the agenda. And as of right now, I'm going to give you a deadline for this, because again, it is in direct violation of your own code of ethics. You have until April 29th to assemble and have this meeting happen, because that is the same amount of time that took between that first Equity and Inclusion meeting and then the Native American Open Community Forum. And that is an adequate timeline, obviously, since you got it done, to assemble a meeting. And this needs to be done. And if it is not done by then I will be doing my best to seek legal action. Thank you.
The final 2 speakers, Kara, I can't say your last name, Lanstott, I can't say it, and Michelle Melendez. And I'm sorry, Kara.
It's Lingto.
Lingto, okay. That's what it looks like. Okay.
So great to be with you again. I ask you that you consider a different format for parents who do need and desire more than 1 or 2 minutes to discuss issues with you. As Mr. Coker said, we're not able to have a 2-way conversation, and I'm not able to stay until later in the evening. But I am from a group of parents called Open, Organizing Parents Education Network, and we are meeting together each Thursday night at 6:30 at the Law Board on Masthead, and we welcome you to any of you to join us, because we are trying to make changes for our children who have disabilities within New Mexico. And tonight I am wishing to discuss with you that we have found discrimination, open discrimination against children with disabilities when they are applying to to charter schools, whether it's through the lottery or throughout the year when there's spaces. First, it's required to disclose if there's an IEP before and during the application period. It's on websites that we have to say whether there's an IEP. And also, our parents are being told that there is not room at specific charter schools when there is openings. In fact, there's low enrollment. And so we've been following this for a few months, and this is heartbreaking to us because to have our children shut out of education opportunity that they would benefit from, plus the dishonesty of being told that the school is full and there are no openings, and being told what number you are on a waiting list during the year after the initial lottery. So I've been trying to meet with Joseph Escobedo, but he's been busy with PED deadlines. So I'm hoping that one of you will come to our meeting so we can discuss this further. Thank you.
Good evening, Board President and members of the board. My name is Michelle Melendez. I'm the director of the city's Office of Equity and Inclusion, and I'm also a product of training by the People's Institute for Survival and Beyond, and have been a trainer in the past for ARTI. So you can imagine that in my new role as the city's director, I have brought anti-racism training to the city, and the mayor has mandated it for city employees. So we have begun a series of community conversations on racial healing, and I'd like to thank many of you board members attended that last week. It was a first step to start opening the conversations, and we know that we have a long way to go to really deal with racism in our community. I also want to point out, and these are things that you know better than any of us, we're a people of color majority city, and we've had 174% growth in the people of color population in the past couple of decades. 74% of our youth are young people of color. And so the mayor has really embraced that our way forward as a city is to be safe, inclusive, and innovative, and you can't do that without addressing inequities in our community. And we're talking racial and other inequities. So I'd like to ask you to join us. We have different anti-racism and racial equity trainings planned over the next few months, including the May 4th and 5th event that's just been described. And we would love to be partnering with the city of between the city of Albuquerque and APS to host these jointly and leverage our resources and bring in as much resources as we can to build our own local capacity to do this training. We have a grant application that we're putting in so that we can continue to fund these going forward. And anytime that we can, we will invite APS to join us in those trainings, and we would love to be able to have the same opportunity if you have an opportunity, so that we can send city employees, so that we can all grow our emotional and social intelligence on this and address the deep inequities that exist in our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your input tonight, and that concludes public forum.
Thank you. We'll go on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, President Piercy, board members, community members, and staff. New Futures High School is a school on the rise. As you may recall, New Futures was designated a CSI school by the New Mexico Public Education Department based on its graduation rate. With the funds made available based on this designation, New Futures has funded its own summer school program. For the first time, New Futures will have the resources and ability to ensure that new or expecting parents in APS do not have to wait until the fall semester to continue or even complete their high school coursework. Rather, they will be able to work through the summer on their coursework and have the quality child care that their new babies need. This type of common sense model will undoubtedly lead to impressive results as these new and expecting parents work towards crossing that finish line that we call graduation. We have very high hopes, and I'm very happy to be able to report this to you tonight. Our middle and high school band programs just wrapped up their annual music performance assessment. During this three-day festival, schools were judged by 3 professionals in their field and were given a rating based on their musical performance. The following schools received a superior rating, meaning that they were superior in every aspect of their performance. And it's a long list. We have Desert Ridge Middle School, Eisenhower Middle School, Garfield Middle School, Jackson Middle School, LBJ Middle School, Tony Hillerman Middle School, Van Buren Middle School, Albuquerque High School, Atrisco Heritage High School, Cibola High School, El Dorado High School, Highland High School, La Cueva High School, Manzano High School, Sandia High School, and Volcano Vista High School. Very, very proud of this designation. So I need to forewarn you because several APS teachers have gone renegade. They've begun what they call an accomplished teaching podcast, and it's called Hallway Renegades. The podcast is for a growing community of educators who are committed to listening and learning from one another in the midst of busy lives. The first podcast is a delightful interview with our very own Dr. Gabriela Blakey on the trust in education. You can listen to all the podcasts at www.hallwayrenegades.com. And I'm very proud of Dr. Blakey for her for her radio appearance. The January-February 2019 School Construction News magazine had a two-page spread on APS. The article highlighted APS leadership in building a culture of sustainability and conservation. From the article, and this is a quote, "As one of the top school districts in the country for LEED certification, APS committed to a goal of LEED Silver or better for all new construction more than 10 years ago. So far, the district has an impressive 54 LEED projects within its portfolio, all of which contribute to lowering APS's resource consumption and therefore lowering operating costs." Also from the article, we have a quote from Tony Sparks, and Mr. Sparks says, "LEED provides the way to ensure you're getting the things that matter to you: efficiency, healthy learning spaces, and environmental stewardship. We found that the cost of LEEDs beyond what we would do anyway is tiny, yet it is crucial and critical in holding our teams accountable for desired outcomes on each and every project." The article also mentions the work of the Water and Energy Conservation Committee, or WEC, and from this article, another quote, "APS's dedication to green building remains intact because district leaders have consistently focused on prioritizing results for student health and well-being and on the district's long-term financial sustainability through smart energy management." I'm excited for all the ways that the staff and leadership of the district are helping to make the world a better place, not only for our students, but are having an influence nationally as well. This concludes Superintendent's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. We'll go on to special issues. The first one is the update on the most rigorous intervention schools, Hawthorne, Los Padillas, and Whittier Elementary Schools, and a plan implementation. This is a discussion item with Dr. Antonio Gonzalez, Associate Superintendent, Zone 2, Dr. Gabriel Blakey, our rogue Associate Superintendent from Zone 1, and Dr. Ellen Bernstein, President of Albuquerque Teachers Federation. Maybe they're all rogue, I'm not sure.
I'm so rogue, they don't listen to me when I tell them to come move up.
That's more of an authority thing, not a rogue thing.
The superintendent has never said thank you for being rogue, usually does it, but we'll all remember that.
Yeah, that could be a quote you can use later on,
yes,
when you need it.
Yeah. So tonight we're here to give you a little bit of an update on the MRI schools and where we are now. As you know, we went through this process last year, and in seeing the hard work of the schools, we felt like it was a good time to showcase how far they've come with the immense task that they were given at the beginning of the school year, and how each school is really designing a school unique to them, even though they all use the same framework. So we have the principals here that will share with you different elements of the plan. Just to remind you a little bit about the plan, remember it was built on our theory of action regarding community schools, and we used the 4 pillars of community schools to design the work. And in that work, we also had some core beliefs that we shared, that schools should be designed around student-centered learning, social-emotional learning, formative assessment, backwards planning, standards-based cross-curricular planning and teaching, and distributive leadership. The redesign elements in the community school framework were added into each of the pillars. And so I know you all remember this. We went over it a lot. Talking about blended learning, dual language, adding Genius Hour, using the SQT model for teacher development at the beginning of the school day. The staff comes in at 7:30 to 8:30. They have the SQT time. And then in the afternoon, we have Genius Hour for the students. They also are building robust community schools within their school. So what we did was, in about a semester after the work, and it felt like 5 years. I'm sure to the principal it felt like 20 years of work, but it was only like 4 months. So we met with, we gave a survey out to the 3 school staffs to kind of see where they were in the model, in the different elements of the model. And then we met with all 3 instructional councils to talk about things that were going well, where they needed more support, things that weren't working. We feel like there's an opportunity with the public education department to have those conversations, but we needed to hear from the schools first as far as what the conversation would be around what was working and what wasn't working. You'll be able to hear a little bit tonight from each of the principals, but overall, the initial impressions that we got from the instructional councils based on the survey were that they had an overwhelming belief that the plan implementation was going well. And remember, we took this survey right before winter break, so they were either really honest at that time or really waiting for winter break, but we were really happy with these results. They also said that the blended learning strategies were beginning to be integrated, but there was a need for more support in that area, so that was one of the areas of support that was needed. They felt that there was definitely an overwhelming benefit of Genius Hour for the students. They found that about half of the teachers that were surveyed are interested in pursuing their national board certification. And they felt that the time allowed for training and professional development, they felt that at this time has enhanced their ability to complete tasks. And, there's never enough time, it feels like. You add time and then you feel like you still need time. So that was one of the elements that we were looking at as far as adding the 8-hour day for the staff. We have Dr. Bernstein here to go over kind of some of the nitty-gritty of the survey, because she's a doctor, she can read the surveys. But to really talk about when we made the plans, we really worked in coordination with the school staffs and with the union, and so we were all kind of on this team to rebuild the schools, and so she's here to present some of those findings.
Thank you very much. I think you can basically see how clear the pie charts are. The staff at all 3 schools were asked if they felt their redesign plans were going well, and a large number of staff feel that they're going well. The next one, which one's next one? Thank you. The next one is that 50% of the people, because of the exposure, are thinking about becoming board certified, which is huge. In any given school. The next pie chart talks about the Genius Hour, and I think one of the things that was significant for me when we met with all of the instructional councils in December was listening to the stories about the staff, the kids, and the community around Genius Hour and what has been happening with that. Oh, wait, I left one out. Oh, sorry. And then the last one that I was supposed to talk about is that I'm able to plan lessons for blended learning environment. And I think that Dr. Blakey mentioned this earlier. People feel like they're starting to understand this, but that they need more support, more time, and to integrate it more fully into their teaching. Thank you. Can I make commentaries? Okay. So, members of the board, Dr. Piercy, Superintendent Reedy, I want to say a few things about what I found as we met with the school's instructional councils and listened to what they had to say, both in terms of what we got wrong in trying to create something different at the schools, and then also what we got right. This work that was a very collaborative effort, and I think a very respectful effort, has affirmed for me that centering our actions in an asset-based belief system results in positive change for everybody. Our collaborative planning was based on the belief that the teachers have assets, that they are part of that community, and that they're not interchangeable pieces on some imaginary game board, like so many reconstitution schemes have done throughout the years. Our work was centered on our shared belief that the students and their families have assets. And for all aspects within our control in this process, everything we did with these 3 schools was based on that idea that we are not there to fill somebody's deficits. This is a significant departure from that tired, No Child Left Behind driven initiative of blame the teachers and fix the kids. I think what this affirmed to me is that we can do great things with collaboration and imagination, and that we don't have to punish schools based on this idea of failure. And I want to thank very much the work that I have been able to do in this area with APS, and specifically with Dr. Gonzalez and Dr. Blakey. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm going to try to finish. Okay, so some of what we saw in the overall survey of the staffs were things that were going well, were Genius Hour, the extended year for students, teachers actually getting paid for the 8 hours that they were doing the work anyway, community schools as a framework, and the time embedded for coaching and PD. The areas for adjustment is that there's excessive assessments. Sorry, I know Brenda's coming to save me. I can feel it. There's still this looming aspect of school closure that we're working on with PED. The schools are looking at adjusting the calendar for the PD days to have more time within the school year instead of it all being up front at the beginning of the school year. We need to help the schools access funds to support Genius Hour, which was put in, but the schools really need funding for it. And each school works on minor adjustments to their master schedule to be able to meet the needs of their individual schools. So again, all 3 schools are using the same framework, but it's really exciting to see the personalities of each school come out in the highlights. And so we want you to hear a little bit, wow, I'm getting all kinds of things. So we want you to hear a little bit from each of the highlights of each of the schools that we find to be really stellar. Hawthorne is going to talk to you about their implementation of community schools. Los Padillas has some great things to share about Genius Hour, and Whittier does an exceptional job in working and coaching teachers that I think everybody needs to really hear about. So each of the principals are going to go over those elements with you, beginning with Judy Martin from Hawthorne Elementary School.
Well, thank you very much. And before I begin, I want to thank you for all allowing me to be one of the principals at an MRI school. It's just been such an honor. And I'm happy that I get to talk about community school councils, because this was something that I did not care for in the grant. It scared me because I'd heard horror stories about community schools. And I didn't think I would be able to give the energy necessary to complete that part of the plan. But when you surround yourself with good people, good things happen. And that's what we've done. Our community council is composed of 42 members. We meet twice a month. We have a representation from our school staff to district support, to our nurse, to parents. We have a student on the council, and we have community members and elected officials. And I'm very proud to say that Board Member Patterson is one of our council members, and Senator Mimi Stewart. So you can tell we have a very active and robust council. So what we did is we not all 42 members show up at once, but we have usually 20 to 25 always in attendance. So what we did is we followed the framework that we received at a conference recently, and we chose a goal. What is it that we wanted to work on as a community council? And so we looked at our data, and we chose absenteeism and tardies. So we brainstormed, how do we come up with an activity or quite a few activities, or what can we do immediately to help with our tardies and our absenteeism? And so with brainstorming with the council members, we came up with an idea called Lunch Lotto. This has really, really been a terrific little addition that's so easy. It can be done at any school. And what that is that we put the names, we have 45 targeted students. So we put names in the hat in each grade level of children with good attendance, along with one or two of those that we're targeting. And what we do is we pull out those names, and those children get to eat lunch in the cafeteria at a special table with a tablecloth and balloons, and they get them, yes, and it's just, I love it. I get to eat with them every Friday. And they get a donated meal that the council goes out and gets, from McDonald's or Freddy's or Burger King, and they're very special. They wear a star with a beautiful lanyard, and they wear that all day. And when I sit with them, so many times I hear, oh, my mom's going to be so proud of me. And what we talk about is, well, you're here because you have good attendance or you've improved your attendance. And so they understand the concept. We just started that the first Friday after winter break. And so far, we've seen that out of the 45 targeted students, 25 have improved their attendance or their tardies, which is very, very good, very impressive. They know what it is now. And in fact, they made a little video about it today, and they're going to present that video at another board meeting on Monday. It's not your board meeting, but it's for the community schools. The donations, it's wonderful, the donations we get, and that the community partners want to work with us. We have one lady who goes and picks them up every Friday. She's a community member. She has no children in our school, but she wants to be active. She gets those lunches every Friday for the students. And the businesses are so good about donating those. And we have felt that not only has our attendance and our tardies improved, but the community council has drawn in and made such an impact on our school that Now, this is just an average, but our average iReady scores have improved 12.4% since the beginning of the year, and that's average of all grade levels. So I went kind of kicking and screaming, but not telling anybody I was kicking and screaming. I was just kicking and screaming in my head about a community school into just loving it and being very, very grateful that I've had this opportunity to work with so many different people, and I actually look forward to those 7:30 meetings. So thank you.
Board members, President Percy, Superintendente Raquel Riri, ¿cómo está?
Muy bien, gracias.
So they only give me a minute, so I have to go fast. They asked me to talk about Genius Hours, and I can talk for hours and hours about that, but basically, we have developed a very refined manner to address how do we present this to the community and to the students. And what we have a system that we have every 6-week cycle where we ask the students and the parents what kind of classes and activities will they would like their students to have access to. Once we do that, then we identify resources and who can actually be a support to the students. Many times, and we always have to have a teacher, but many times our community members, we have an Aikido class that is taught, it's been taught by community members. There's a teacher there, but there's 2 senseis that actually teach the class. We also have a cooking class that is actually done by community members. And we also have resources from the community. When we have the celebrations, the demonstrations, the presentations, we have 150 plus community coming to the school every 6 weeks. That promotes communication with the teachers. That promotes the parents being involved and knowing, seeing the school the way it is now, and feeling good about what the students are doing. The side benefit of having something like this at the end of the day is the students go home happy. The students go home and they talk to the parents about what they did for the sports class, for the robotics class, for all these other classes that we have, and then the conversation starts in a good manner. Instead of sometimes the students being so tired by 1, 2, 3 in the afternoon, it's actually a time when they're going to start doing the activities where they get to talk, they get to have conversations, they get to produce vocabulary, and have all these activities in the afternoon. The other part that we did, and then trying to outreach, again, as a community school, is we went and talked to the one of the centers that we have close to our school, that is Real Asistencia Rehabilitation Center. And the purpose of this is to also reach out into the community. And so our students, every 6 weeks, go and present something. Could be poetry, could be a dance, could be a skate, could be a little play, or sometimes even an interview to the elders. And so we have these communications with them. I was able to provide transportation for free because the community center, the Los Padillas Community Center, is working with us, and they're taking our students over there. So we're trying to create something that is the community as a whole that is working on this Genius Hour. And a big stroke, that's what is happening about this Genius Hour. And the feedback that I get from parents is the students are happy and they don't want to miss it. And because this is a very long day for the students and doesn't really allow for dental visits or doctor's visits, sometimes when the kids go in the middle of the day, they want to come back. And just like the previous example of improving truancy, my school also got about 7.4 reduction in truancy.
Good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Reedy. My name is Kim Fink. I'm the principal at Whittier Elementary, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the work that we've been doing with teachers. I think we all believe, all of us who worked on this MRI issue, that the real unit of change in this process is with the teacher. That those are the people who directly impact the students. And so if we do the correct things there and lay fertile ground, we're setting everybody up for success. So some of the specific work that we've done is making sure that we have aligned curriculum and that our teachers really, really understand the programs that are being provided to them. by the district. Specifically, we've worked very closely with the Stepping Stones consultants that was provided by the series, that's our math series, to make sure that there's a clear understanding of the math content. And it's really exciting to hear the teachers really talking as experts about these are steps we need to take based on the data that we produce. Tier 2 program in math, which is advanced math recovery, making sure that when we do have kids who are struggling, we actually have strategies that will help them grow in mathematics. We're working through the ELA because we were able to adopt the new curriculum early, which is benchmark advanced. So really learning that and being absolute experts and making sure that there's an aligned curriculum. A lot of that has been done through the morning work in professional development, the SQT, which has been absolutely essential. We're meeting with them every morning. Also, common planning time that we provide during the day. The Budget Steering Committee was very generous in making sure that we had all the resources we needed for our pull-out classes so that our teachers have common planning time by grade level every single day, that they always have that time. We've done a lot with data analysis. It's part of the embedded professional development. I call it dirty data versus clean data. I think for a long time there's been this view that assessment's bad. Assessment is not bad. Assessment is something that we absolutely have to do, but it has to be used in the context of how do we drive the decisions we make in the classroom, and how do we drive decisions we make for individual students and make sure that we're meeting their needs. So we do a lot of work around examining student work, actually sitting down and looking at writing samples. We do that once a month. We do data analysis on our stepping stones. It's an actual item analysis where we take a look at why kids missed. It's not enough to know that they missed it. We need to know why. So for example, in math, if a kid missed an area problem, if 75% of the class missed a problem on area, is the problem that they don't understand area, or was it multi-digit multiplication that actually tripped them up? So that we spend students' time and our time on the correct things. Just taking a look at things like good old running records. Our school's going back to running records. We don't find that iStation provides the kind of data that we need to give students, to have a clear picture of what children can do. So really knowing kids very intimately on an academic level. We also have a coaching and feedback system that we do on a regular basis. All of our teachers scored themselves on a rubric that we built based on a book called Get Better Faster by Paul Bambrick-Santoyo. And it really takes a look at planning versus actually carrying out instruction in the classroom. They rated themselves, and then based on the feedback that they gave us, we kind of tiered them out. Teachers who get weekly visits, teachers who get visits every 2 weeks, and teachers who get visits every 3 weeks. These are non-evaluative visits, non-evaluative. We're going in just side by side with the teacher, talking about the one high leverage thing that we think that they could do in the course of a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It could be something very, very simple, like just making sure that there's equity in call-outs in your classroom. The classroom visits last 5 to 10 minutes, and then we always meet with those teachers within 24 to 48 hours. We did a school climate survey, and we found that 100% of our teachers either agreed or strongly agreed that that was something useful to them in their personal practice. The results, so far what we saw was between August and December, we had about a 15% shift in our iReady math scores, and then in iReady reading anywhere from a 4 to 25% shift, depending on the grade level. Thank you.
Mr. President, members of the board, Superintendent Reedy, you know that this has been quite the journey in terms of the work that we've engaged in over the last couple of years, but the implementation in reality has only just been over a semester, as mentioned. And one of the things that has been quite remarkable to watch has been this legislative session and seeing how so many pieces of legislation have reflected components of these MRI plans, be it the community schools piece, the Genius Hour, National Board Certification piece, the extended time, the study of quality teaching, the SQT work, and so on. So I think that has been one of the things that has brought great hope and validation to the work that has taken place at these 3 schools. What I would say in terms of what we've learned, intentionally or unintentionally, or quite frankly, tripping over our own 2 feet, we really have celebrated the implementation of work that has been taking place, the study of quality teaching in our district, a task force, the teams, in collaboration with our teachers union for several years, looking to see what does that mean. Well, these schools and these plans has given us an opportunity to integrate those studies, that research, those best practices, and really see how it's taken off at these 3 schools. We've seen where it's worked, we've seen where we need to tweak a little bit, and it's really put reality into plans that have been on a shelf for quite some time. So we celebrate that. We look forward to continuing to perfect that work. We've also seen what the real local narrative in community schools and the specialized focus to these individual schools around the community school framework and concept have been realized. We've seen, as many examples have been shared this evening in regards to community councils really taking ownership of their schools and owning those dreams, those those little sticky notes that many of you saw at those roundtable conversations when we built these plans. Well, that has not been forgotten. And really, these same people, in many cases, that attended those roundtable conversations are the very people that are sitting on these community councils at this time. We've looked at what funding and resources and sustainability looks like in relationship to these plans. And we've had intentional conversations of what's next in our district in regards to supporting schools down the road and owning our narrative as a district in relationship to performance frameworks and systems of supports as we look forward to lessons learned and what does the future hold, and having, quite frankly, a great deal of hope for what that means for our district. And it's allowed us to really enrich our students' experience and their pathway to better attendance and morale. In all 3 schools' cases, be it Genius Hour, be it additional time, we have seen a spike in excitement, in joy of learning in these schools. So that has been something that I don't know that you can put a number on, but has been amazing to watch and see. So what's next? We really are on the pathway of prioritizing structures to replicate or scale up some of this work. Conversations as recently as just a few hours ago are taking place in reference to looking at these prototypes and how we can look at the future in terms of everything from budget to lessons learned to working together as teams to look at owning that narrative and looking to see how we can scale up some of this work with some other schools, perhaps. Determine systems and prototypes to replicate sustainable structures, what is really working. I think you saw a lot of what's working in the feedback that was given. And discuss opportunities to grow and mentor future leaders for schools, I think was something that we've really looked at very intentionally as we see the great success that we've had in these school leaders. The teacher leadership piece has also grown at all 3 schools. Just looking at the data of half of the teachers at these 3 schools wanting to pursue one of the highest bars of achievement in the teaching profession, and that being the National Board Certification. So we're excited and grateful for the opportunity to work with these 3 schools and excited for what the future holds in terms of school transformation. And with that, Mr. President, we all stand for any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. I'm opening up for board questions. Board Member Garcia.
Well, I very much appreciate the presentation this evening, and congratulations on your success. I do have some questions, and mostly they're for my own clarification. So, for example, when we have a survey that says, overall, I feel our redesign plan is going well, and yet you have 25% saying they're neutral, and 6.3% saying that they disagree. Can you dig down a little bit and say why people responded in that way?
So the results that you have are a combination of all 3 schools. So part of it is we could guess, I don't know, because I haven't talked to the individual teachers. Some of it in the disagree is that the school transformation work is really hard. And the schools have all worked with some teachers, had the idea of it, but choose to work somewhere else because a variety of reasons. And I think when the neutral teachers It's because it's only been, when we gave this, it was only December. So I think some people are hesitant, like you can't really say if something is working full on or not. You know, they felt uncomfortable saying that when it's only been till December when they took the survey. But our hope is to survey again at the end of the year too and see how it's progressing and to be able to dig into those data a little bit better. But, you know, if it said 100%, strongly agree, I would be concerned that there was a misunderstanding of the question.
That's very helpful. Thank you. I guess in looking at a couple of the others, the tracking of the implications of what you're implementing, for me is still really critical if we're reducing truancy, if teachers feel engaged and challenged. That's all very, very important in my mind. My thinking is it comes down to what I describe as organizational culture in a school and whether or not people are willing to transform the way they do business. And my hope is that, at least I witnessed that at Los Padillas. I was actually pretty amazed and very pleasantly surprised at the number of parents who themselves were actually going to get their GEDs, other parents who want to be teachers. That to me is very exciting. And I was concerned about the energy level that children might have or face at the end of a school day when one piece of feedback from one parent was that their child was very tired, but what I noticed is that the children seemed very enthusiastic about what they were doing in the Genius Hour and excited to be able to present. And I especially love that you had the children presenting to each other. So thank you very much for what you're doing.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd just like to say thank you for all the work. I mean, I think this is real testimony to what happens when we approach a school with that outlook of there are strengths in the community. And I mean, I keep saying it over and over again, but the way that the community stepped up in all three of those schools to say, this is our school and we're going to fight for it, and the way staffs stayed committed and rose to the occasion with the leadership of the principals that are there, and the level of collaboration. One of my concerns and one of the things that I heard early on is how difficult it was, especially at the beginning, that wonderful ideas are wonderful, but implementation is a whole nother thing. And so I'm really glad that over time, maybe not as rapidly as we'd like, but over time, that bit by bit, there's the analysis going on of what other resources are needed. Realistically, what do we do so that we can sustain the growth? Because one of the issues right now is there's been this huge investment up to this point. What do we need to do to guarantee that the people who have done the work up to this point are able to stay and continue that process? Because one of the hardest things when there's a real massive redesign is maintaining the stability of the staff, because it's just hard work. But one of the things that strikes me every time I walk into either Hawthorne or Whittier, I confess I haven't been to Los Padillas, even though I would like to. But the level of just personal relationship between staff and student and family, that it's so clear that every single student in each of those schools is known and recognized, and that their needs, and sometimes those needs are overwhelming. I mean, there's a reason why these schools were identified as failing schools. there are kids that come with tremendous need, and it's not always easy to figure out how do you move forward. And every time I walk into either Whittier or Hawthorne, there's this level of commitment, and just, you know, we talk about wraparound services, and it's almost that physical part. I mean, Reina Luz or Alma almost physically wrapping around to what does this child need. And I think being able to address really and truly deeply that social emotional need of students in a respectful way, I mean, and respect for the staff, respect for the parents, respect for the children is deep. And the level of professional growth and just the professional conversation that I hear too is really exciting. Thank you for running records. I love it. I can. Advantage math and running records, thank you. But dear to my heart. And so, anyway, I think it's really critical that we be honest, and this is the one other thing that I wanted to say. I really appreciate the honesty that I hear from all of you about not glossing over, not saying, oh, everything is wonderful, just smile and go on, because that doesn't help us grow. And so I really appreciate the level of honesty of saying what's the need, where are the difficulties, where are the roadblocks, what do we need to do? Because that's what we absolutely have to do if we're going to grow this model. So thank you.
Other comments, board members?
Yes.
Board member Montoya Cordova?
I was just going to say thank you, too, for all the work that you're doing. I think what it highlights for me is that reality that there is no silver bullet, right? That it's a number of things that are going to make a school succeed. And, you know, sometimes we want to put just like all our eggs in one basket, and it's just this one thing. But it's a combination of things that are going to help a school or help a student and the community succeed. I also agree that it's a semester. I mean, and I get that, you know, it's a semester. And so it'll be interesting to see, you know, with time and what happens over the course of the end of the year, right? So that we can see what are those places that, you know, with this particular model, what does stand up pretty firmly, I guess, across all three schools, and where are the areas where it doesn't, right? What are some of those things that make a difference, because it is based on the community and it is unique in terms of what kind of support you have and what is needed to actually make that happen. So I'd be curious to see how that goes, because I think that's going to help us evaluate further what's the real support that needs to happen, or, you know, what are some of those things too that could happen with very little intervention, and those that require a lot more intervention to make happen to sustain a community school. Because I think that's the trick in it. Community schools are not an easy design. I mean, you know, it's a shift out for the community, and it's also a shift out for the school. You suddenly have to embrace people to come into your school and work with you, which I think is really different. And then I just want to say, you know, congratulations again to being able to like keep our schools open for those communities, because I think it's, you know, they belong to the community. The schools don't belong to us. I mean, there's an infrastructure there that was built for a purpose because there was a group of families and communities that lived there, and they needed a school to attend to. So closing the school was never an option. We needed to have a place for kids to go. So I look forward to hearing some more, and I do want to come out for one of those 6-week celebrations over at Los Padillas, so let me know when the date is so I could come out to that. And I love the idea that you're doing some intergenerational work too, and going to Las Estancias. I think that's a great idea. Thank you.
Other board members? Board Member Patterson?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. You know, it's interesting that we talk about MRI and whatever that means out in the community, you know. But it's refreshing to see that we have our principals here, and that we get to identify them, and that they're actually people in those schools that actually make a big difference in the community. And I appreciate that you're here today, and we should see you here more often, but I know that you have things to do after work. And I know you have a long, long day. I know it's a very long day for you, and I appreciate all the work you do with our children. And thank you so much for being here, and thank you, Dr. Blakely, Ellen, and Dr. Gonzalez, for all the work that you all do every day. Thank you.
Remember Amijo.
I also appreciate the update. Thank you for being here this evening, and thank you for sharing all that you did, and again, your honesty. We really appreciate that. I'm very impressed in what's taken place in the last 5 months. It sounds incredibly intense, though. And I also echo the sentiments on sustainability and giving the support that we can to the staff and the teachers around that. I also really enjoyed hearing about the support around teacher leadership and the encouragement around that and the next steps on that, and especially how important it is on developing relationships, real relationships with students and children, and having that approach towards that whole child. So thank you again to all of you for being here tonight, and thank you again for this report. Thanks.
Thank you. Just a quick question. Just to echo some of the things, but the one thing I really do worry about, I do worry about the sustainability, the capability to do it, and I worry about the scaling possibilities. Because typically when we do these things, the idea is not just to do them for 3 schools. The idea is take these kinds of pilots, these kinds of things that we think will really work well, and expand them to some of our other schools, right? So I worry about cost. In other words, what will it really cost us to do that? But more than that, I worry about the energy it takes for our personnel to do this. It's a huge amount of energy. And we start these things, I've been part of these things where you're really energetic, you got a project, everybody's energetic, and you work and you work and you work, and then you get tired, and it still needs to go on, and it's hard. It's hard work, like you said. And so I worry about even the ability for us to take these 3 schools and say, hey, we got really good things, we're getting good results, we're getting better attendance, and yet it takes a huge amount of effort, a huge amount of effort. And then if you take these teachers who want to do national board certification, that's not an easy thing. That takes a lot of effort, you know what I mean? So if they're going to do this along with national board certification, all of a sudden now we're using up about 36 hours a day, and then you go to meetings like this, and then you go to meetings like community meetings, and then you go to meetings like forums, and you go to all these other things, and sometimes you don't get the kind of appreciation that I think is needed. So I worry about that. So just from your own perspective, I know we haven't really done probably a really good cost analysis. I know how much it pretty much costs us for individual schools. We may be able to do that a little cheaper for, like I say, a CSI school or a TSI school, maybe a little different kind of format. But what are your thoughts, just briefly? Do you really think we can sustain this? I mean, and then is it really possible to scale it? I mean, these principals are working, they're working 24/7. I mean, really, I'm serious. And so it's a hard job, and then we're going to have maybe some other things put on people, maybe we'll have anti-racism training, and we'll have a bunch of other things, and then we'll have, other stuff. Pretty soon, it's a huge commitment. So what are your thoughts, Ellen, or maybe principals even?
Dr. Piercy, members of the board, and Superintendent Reedy, I'm going to give you a few thoughts and no answers.
We got a lot of thoughts and no answers. I'm going to let everybody know, that if you think that's not a general problem, that is a general problem. And it isn't because we're not smart people. It's because if we had the answers, they'd all be coming to us across this whole nation.
Yes,
so
sir.
I'm just telling you, okay?
So a couple things. One, SQT stands for Supporting Quality Teaching, and we've used that committee to do some deep research and work on multiple things over many years. We used it to do our work on our PAR program. We've used it to work on the idea of time and how we might get to an 8-hour day. And that work that we did in collaboration in that committee is the work that was applied to this model. When we applied it to the model, I think one of the things that we weren't in a position to do yet was allow the staff not to be busy in every single hour of every single day, and to maybe look at some of those hours as being just for what you need to get done at that moment in time. You know, personal planning, personal preparation, and we need to kind of balance out on some of that. We need to look at staffing so we can maybe differentiate. And that's not the word I'm looking for, so that we can look at ways in which it doesn't have to be that classroom teacher doing Genius Hour also, that maybe we have other supports and other people coming in, so that it's not just on that small group of people, but maybe we'll have some resources to expand the number of human beings doing that kind of intense work and support. I think it's very important that we don't do what we've done in the past, and I've watched it go through many cycles, and that is some initiative, usually at the state level, says you're not doing well as a school, so we're going to provide you with mandated support. In that kind of oxymoron kind of way that we mandate support, and then the school does better, and then we pull away the support. And so we can't do that. We really need to look at what it's going to take in these 3 communities before we go to scale, so that it's not that they're going through the roller coaster of, oh, now we're going back to a traditional school model, now we're going to expand our supports for kids, families. I think that there's money in Senate Bill 1 and House Bill 5 to do some of that work because they're increasing the at-risk factor, and I think that that's what some of this money is intended for. However, we also run the risk of what I hear in the legislature right now, and that is, how do we afford it? Don't worry, it's in the at-risk factor. And so I think that's going to be interesting. I know you have an update later, and it'll be interesting to see what that's for. There's also the implication of how do we learn from this so that we hold on to these lessons, because what I've witnessed also is that we go through generations of initiatives and then we forget what we did. So there are some implications for this work that I want to make sure I say out loud. One is plans are written down. When we worked with the rethinking of Rio Grande and Ernie Pyle, we tried really hard, and then later at Emerson and also at Eubank, which is now Janet Kahn, we tried really hard to make sure that what we're doing as a plan that guides us as a school is written down. Not that it's written down to keep us stuck in what we thought was a good plan, but so we can review and revise on a yearly basis, but that we have something written to guide us so that we can refer back to it when things get so busy and we lose our way. That's important. And then it's important, too, that we document the good work we do. And we're doing some really significant work in our partnerships right now. We have the residency program where we're working with UNM, the union, and of course the district, and we're going into our 2nd cohort of residents. So we talk a lot at our meetings in the residency program, and I said, I sure wish I knew a grad student who would take all of this great work we're doing and do a little research and write it up and get it published. And then Dr. Krebs said, oh, I know somebody. And we met with her last week, and she's amazing. She's a parent at Bandelier working on her doctorate in the College of Education, and she is so excited to help us do some qualitative research, so you might get phone calls, principals, on what we're doing here with these schools, and then look at some implications, some lessons to be learned for the rest of the educational community, because the other thing I think we do is good work, and then we don't immortalize it in any way. And it's time to start doing that.
Okay. Dr. Blakey.
Let's go back to remember when she said it was good to be rogue, so I can bring up ideas. So one of the ways
She does get a last voice here, but it's okay.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. So one of the ways that I've also thought about, like, how do we sustain this type of work is in how we look at schools of choice. And how do we sustain these 3 schools to become a school of choice where it is who Whittier is, to have these elements as part of their school, rather than it being almost an idea that, oh, look, here we fixed Whittier, now like take everything away, let's go do a little plan on another school. But in taking that whole asset-based approach that we've taken with these schools and building it to be that you want to go to a school like Whittier or Hawthorne or Los Padillas, because they are a school of choice that have so much to offer, that it becomes a model of innovation within the district of a school to sustain. So I guess it would be kind of moving towards this sustainability of a cadre of innovative schools that come up through this redesign model of transformation, but in an asset-based way that it's a good thing that the schools were able to get the support through the battle, but when we come out of what parts of the plan are really relevant and good for the community, that they then become a school of choice and not an MRI school, but that would actually mean that they were an innovative school.
Thank you. Yeah. A couple things were mentioned, very important. One is, of course, the documentation is extremely important. I don't care what we're doing, whether it's this particular activity or whether it's SLPs or related services or counselors or whoever's documenting information. That's important because we got to know where we are. We've got to know what we're doing, and we've got to know what we're doing right and that kind of thing. So that's really important. I think it's very interesting. You got a person who wants to do some research. I'm always interested in people interested in research, real research. I would suggest you might want to coordinate with Dr. Bowman too, because this is a school thing, right? And so we need to understand how that's really working with regard to our overall picture of what we're trying to do here for research. So I would suggest that would be a good thing. And besides that, he might be a nice mentor for the purpose of, if she's getting a doctorate, how does school really work? I would suggest that's a really good idea. And I love the idea of a school of choice, innovation, and then I'd like to say, well, what I really want to do is I want to make that the norm. It's just a normal school, right? I want to go to my neighborhood school. It's a normal school. I'm getting great education there, whatever it takes to do that. So we want to move from innovation to that's just the norm. That's what we're doing. That's what I mean by sustainability. That's what I mean by scaling. All of our schools probably need some of this aspect. And so I think those are all really good things. So thank you so much for your comments. I think these are all excellent things. We don't hear that all the time, and yet that's what we should be saying, is that we're working towards innovative things that are going to become the norm. This is just who we are. So yes, Dr. Gonzalez.
Mr. President, members of the board, one point that we don't want to be remiss in mentioning, in part to answer your question, is the whole concept of leadership development and how we've taken lessons in the development and rollout of these plans, but also the intentional mentor principal concept that we have in place with two master principals in Jean Saavedra and Kathy House, in the work that they have done and the track record of success that they've had in their leadership and principling over years, and the support that they've given. And I think in all three cases, I think I see the principals nodding that their support has been absolutely invaluable. A critical friend, a thought partner, somebody that they're able to bounce ideas off of, work on budgets with, talk about hiring practices, deploying professional development, and the list just goes on and on. And I just, I know on behalf of all of us that have presented, not enough thank you can go out to these two individuals for the support that they have given behind the scenes, but also in the forefront of the work. They have just been pioneers in the work. So thank you, Mr. Saavedra. Thank you, Ms. House.
I think that's absolutely great and brings up, of course, the added question of scaling. They're only two the individuals. You know what I mean? So how do we build these master teachers that are going to maybe scale to other schools, you know? So, yeah, all those are interesting questions. If we had all the answers, we would have done a long time ago. So I think that's what we're learning, and I think that's what you've told us. Superintendent Reedy, do you have anything to add to any of this, or?
Well, I've been sitting here and just listening, and I know all the work that took place in anticipation of this. It didn't just come up like Topsy. There was a lot of thought, reaching out to the community members, listening to teachers and mothers and fathers, and talking to students and administration, talking to and working closely with the union. All of this took a lot of time and effort because we wanted to do it, and we wanted to do it thoughtfully. And I think we're seeing some of the results. It is very, very hard. You're absolutely right. But our kids are worth it, and what we're seeing here is the fruit of literally the love that everyone had for the students, and we're seeing that result. So I would love nothing better than to see these schools established and looked at as models for other schools across the state and the country. I see that certainly is within the realm of possibility, and I'm just very, very proud of the work that's taken place, and I'm so glad they were able to give you some of those details.
Thank you. And as a last comment, I'm glad the city's here because I think the collaboration with the city and all of these kind of things is extremely important. I mean, we're talking about community schools, we're talking about those kind of things. Later on, we'll talk about other kinds of collaboration, but that is really important because the city is part of our community. You know, we are part of the city. So that has to work in terms of all of our 143 schools. And so those are important things. And so I'm glad that the city's here to hear this because we cannot do this without the community. We cannot do this without the city and without the collaboration. So that is an important thing for us to know. So, yes, Kim.
Thank you. Board President Piercy and members of the board and Superintendent Reedy, I just wanted to jump up here real quickly and thank you for all of the comments about us working hard and being tired in the long days. And I wanted to address that because I'm very tired, but I'm pretty old too. But the only thing I have heard is it's a long day for kindergarten and first graders. That's about the only drawback. But I think that when you're choosing leaders for a school that does work the hours that we work, you need to find a leader that really values what a teacher does in the classroom. I know that I am absolutely a bear about anybody from the district offering any training to my teachers unless it's the 7:30 to 8:30 hour. If it's the new Alice protocol or the playgrounds, I don't care. They come at that time. My teachers do not stay after 4 o'clock. I really talk to them about their national boards, about not doing the whole chunk in 1 year. They have 3 years to do this, just to take care of themselves and their family. I insist that my teachers are out that door at 4 o'clock at the end of the day, so that they can go home and they can rest. I'm also working on a schedule for Genius Hour next year where I have enough teachers to cover Genius Hours where each teacher will have at least 1 6-week period off. So that will give them an extra 45 minutes in the day to do their work. I just can't tell you how hard teachers work in this day and age. I don't know how they do it, not only with everything that's online and all the testing and all the mandates and everything that they put up with. Our students are coming to us with social and emotional problems that are taking away their instructional time. So just keep that in mind when you hire the new leaders for the other schools coming on. If your teachers are happy, your children will succeed. And one of the things they have to do is they have to enjoy their own family and get a good night's rest. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe they need a nap in the day. I don't know. It's what I was thinking when you were saying they have their own little personal time. I says, yes, it's a nap time. I take several naps, I think, during the day. So thank you very much. I greatly appreciate this presentation. It's great to have an update. So thank you so much. And we'll go on to our next special issue, which is the government affairs update. We'll do that with Dr. Heather Dahl and Dr. Joseph Escobedo. So you guys can give us a thought about what's going on.
Hello, good evening, President Piercy, members of the board, Superintendent Reedy. This is the final countdown, maybe, to the legislative session. Yesterday was a big day where Senate Bill 1 passed the floor on the Senate side and House Bill 5 passed on the House side. They are nearly amended to look the same. There's a slight difference in the teacher pay between House Bill 5 and Senate Bill 1. They both brought to the floor a similar amendment that helped move those off the floor. That amendment was around the age 22 cap question, and the amendment will hold harmless for a year the funding for schools that serve adult students or students over the age of 22, and then we'll put into place a pilot program with $3 million in funding in collaboration with higher ed and PED to study how to transition to higher ed, serving all students for high school coursework, I guess. And then diplomas as a possibility, but that's not firm yet either. So the age 22 cap, in a sense, passed, and those schools, Gordon Bonnell, that was most impacted by it and did the best job bringing people up and talking to legislators, did feel like this solution was one that would serve them. I think they talked with the sponsors of the legislation before the amendment and helped make the amendment, which is why they waited to maybe discuss those yesterday. So that's a big notable thing. Those should go pretty quickly. On the Senate side, it passed 41-0. The House side, it was 53-14 in favor. So when they crisscross now, I don't expect that they'll meet much obstacles. That does carry about $120 million in funding for APS in those bills. So outside the age 22 issue, there's a lot to look forward to in those bills. And they are lined up right now with House Bill 2, which is the appropriation bill that lines out the anticipated funding for the legislation that they hope to have passed around at-risk index, increase to the SEG, teacher salaries, et cetera. Otherwise, everything else has felt minor, but still still can cause enough angst to keep updating and keep watching them. We updated this chart for you again. It's the same one we've had with most of the same bills, a few added in, but there has been more movement. Is there any specific ones that you want me to focus in on for you?
Board Member Garcia.
I just have a general question. It's regarding there was a push at some point to look at replacing the cash reserves that were swept by Governor Martinez. Previously, has that been introduced, or is there a decision about not doing that?
I haven't seen any legislation on that. There's been a few people who've brought that up. The only kind of parallel is a backfill allocation for instructional materials, but nothing in terms of district's cash reserves. So I haven't seen any legislation or anything definite on that. I think maybe part of the thinking is we're increasing the funding at, overall 18% to the SCG, that would make up for that. But I haven't seen anything on backfill legislation.
Thank you, and may I follow up?
Sure, yeah.
So the other question I had was with regards to the election law, and I don't see a description of how it's changed, or have some of the challenges with that law been addressed at this point?
So House Bill 407 is the election law 50-year tune-up. That is going to the House floor. It is on the calendar now. I thought it would pop up today, but I think it'll probably pop up tomorrow. When it was discussed last week in Senate Judiciary, it was pretty unanimous. It was about 8 o'clock at night last Thursday, I think, and there was a packed room, and they said, who's here to support? And everyone raised their hand, and who's here to oppose? And there were no hands. And there was some discussion, and it passed unanimously out of there. So once it gets passed out of the House, we'll know what committees it's being assigned to in the Senate, and keep an eye on it from there. Do you have questions on the specifics of 407, or?
Well, it has to do with mail-in ballots and the amount of time that we have to be able to do something if we do choose to have another proposal with regards to the maintenance funds.
From what I understand, it's going to align the election law and the tax code so that ballots that are elections that are passed, you can get taxes for in that same year, which means we can collect on funds in 2019 with an election in November. So it will, you know, if that would have been added in last year, it would have made the mail-in election maybe not necessary because we would have been able to go till November, but that wasn't the case. The tax code didn't match up with that. So this will allow for November elections to occur, so in 2019, and that for us to still collect money on them in December for the whole year.
But there's no requirement that that particular election be a mail-in ballot.
No, Board Member Garcia, the 407 will continue to say all elections should line up in November, local, state, city. But if any entity wants to do their own election, they can only do it via mail-in. So the idea is to try to get all elections onto one cycle for one trip for the voter to go vote and to discourage anything else. And so the mail-in election will be the only exception you can use if you don't want to use that synchronized election date going forward.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Percy,
Yes, Board
so
Member
does 407, I mean, we're saying that it's going to allow us to like collect the taxes. So does 407 have or include language that directs the secretaries of state or the you know, at the local level to do that?
It does.
It does?
It says it's going to delay the actual putting in the actual information into the tax information that goes out to the voters.
Yeah. Okay. President Piercy, Member Montoya Cordova, from my understanding, as long as you make your declaration by July, then the tax bill can be delayed to wait for the results of your election in November.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
But we have to make the declaration by July. So that's a message to us in terms of what we're going to do here. If we're going to do something in November, we have to make it by, I think it's July, the end of July 31st. We have to do that.
Okay.
Other comments? Board Member, what is your name? Peterson. Okay.
I'm not sure.
It's getting late. Okay.
By this point in the meeting,
Yeah.
who knows?
Okay.
Let's see, just a couple of things. I was looking at, oh shoot, and now I've lost it. The education retirement bill, it's Tomas Salazar's bill 338. I'm wondering if you've looked at it at all. I mean, I think it's really attempting to be a fix, but I'm wondering if there's this was brought to my attention earlier today. Is there an allocation in it to cover the district's portion of the increase? And I guess that's a question for salaries, for benefits as well. On the other end, for salaries, this is the ERA contribution. Is there money, or is it an unfunded mandate? And if so, what do we need to do to get sufficient money put into it?
So, President Piercy, Board Member Peterson, I would have to get back to you on specific on that particular bill. I have heard that the request was, you know, for 0.5, or the funding in HB2 is at 0.5%, and so that would leave employers with the other 0.5 because the request was 1%. But right now, LFC's recommended budget for that is 0.5%. So I'm not sure what bills that tags up to, what legislation in House Bill 2, but that's something I've heard, but I'm not sure what the solution is or who we go to on that or how that'll work out. It'll probably end with a House Bill 2 appropriation question.
It does seem like it could be a fairly massive amount if there's nothing specifically allocated for it. So that's something worth tracking. The other thing is, I'm just wondering because there are lots of different formulas and different ways of looking. I'm wondering what your take is at this point, how the at-risk money is going to come. Is it going to be, and this includes things like the community schools and all of that, how much is going to be specific line item? How much is going to come to a school or a district rather, to say, here's the amount of money, you decide how you've got to allocate it within the district. I know there's been a lot of debate about how many checks and balances there are going to be, what kind of oversight. Do you have sort of a global picture of how that's all going to shake out?
President Piercy, Board Member Peterson, I can give you an understanding of how I've heard it explained in legislation. I think how it shakes out is probably going to be up to leadership and school board. I do think it's a 0.25 index instead of 0.13 is it now, and so that equates to what Ms. Coleman and Teresa Scott have explained in numbers from $30 million to about $60 million for APS, so a $30 million increase. That at-risk money did not have any kind of narrative attached to it in House Bill 1 or Senate Bill 1 or House Bill 5. House Bill 5 amended it and Senate Bill 1 accepted those same amendments that say, they both started out with that when districts submit for their operational budget to PED for approval, they'll have to submit a narrative alongside their budget request saying, this is what we're going to do to serve at-risk students. And then through the process, they've added in things that say, for example, these are some things that you could do, but they are guidelines or suggestions. There's not anything in the language of either bill that says you'll have to prove you use this or prove you do that. And they give examples like community schools or socio-emotional programs. So I think at least the intent as of now, or the conversation now, is that money increase is going to be left to districts to decide how they want to allocate resources to service at-risk students, but that in the past that money went into the operational pot and there was not really any mandates or ways to code or report on that funding, and now there will be some, but some of that may be worked out in PED regulation once the session ends.
I mean, I think the appropriate place for it is with us in making those decisions, but it's going to put some real serious conversations on us, because on the one hand, we recognize that no student in this state has had an education that's sufficiently funded, but we also know, I mean, in the previous discussion about the MRI schools is a real good example of we can't talk equity without having resources behind it. And I was looking, we got a note. This is just a sort of for instance. We got a letter from the district drama folks that had analyzed, for instance, there are 14 middle schools in the district that do not have a drama program. 6 of them are in Zone 1. 5 of them are in Zone 2. This is an equity issue. If we don't put additional funding, schools like the middle schools in Zone 1 and 2 end up having to make decisions about when they don't have sufficient personnel and when they can't fund programs that are needed. Do they focus on basic stuff, which is what all of the testing has moved people towards, which means the things that students need most, which is the programs that make them want to come to school, get underfunded. And And schools like Van Buren end up deciding, for instance, they have an amazing garden teacher. There's an amazing school garden. Well, where does that funding come from? The schools that try, anyway, so this is just, I mean, this really isn't for you. You're doing exactly what you need to do. It's just bringing to mind what kinds of conversations we're going to have, because it means allocating money differently from district or from zone to zone and school to school, or else we are going to be not serving the children that are most in need. And it's not okay for us to just say life isn't fair. We've got an obligation to meet the needs. So hopefully there's going to be a whole lot of money in that. Hopefully we can make good decisions, but I just felt like we need to be thinking about it, because it means that some schools really have to get more than other schools in the district.
Other board members? Comments?
Well, I just want to thank you for tracking over 400 bills and keeping these 45 in front of us. I think it's incredibly important, the kind of updates that you give us. And the visibility that the three of you have had up there has been incredible. And the way the people move out of your way and open up the halls when you walk down them, I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen. So, but I mean, the leadership that the three of you have had up there is a positive thing, yeah. Up there, it is a positive thing. So, really appreciate the visibility that the three of you have had up there, and how you're there to answer questions and be supportive and testify at hearings. So thank you again for keeping these 45 in front of us and for tracking over 400 bills for us. Thank you.
Yes, Board Member Patterson.
Okay, I just have a real quick question, Dr. Dahl. With regard to House Bill 129 on security, I understand there's a loophole in here somehow with regard to that bill. Does that have anything to do? Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, finish.
No, go ahead.
So, President Piercy, Board Member Patterson, House Bill 129, I think probably the way it was originally written is maybe got a lot of news press for a loophole, but she has completely rewritten, Representative Linda Trujillo, that bill is a committee substitute. So the committee substitute does not really look like the original bill at all, but it does focus in on her original intention, which was to narrowly define school security personnel and who that is. And she worked closely with NMIPSIA to make sure that she was aligning with what they need to have in order to meet insurance guidelines for school security or people who are considered eligible to carry a weapon on campus.
So it only identifies who can carry weapons in the school, is that correct? Resource officers and whoever is designated within the school? I'm not
President
clear.
Piercy, Board Member Patterson, I don't think it's about school resource officers. It's about retired police officers or people who are trained to carry weapons. So it's not about arming school resource officers, school security. She was trying to close the loophole because the word school security was not defined in statute, and sometimes schools, name someone a security person, and she felt like that could be misinterpreted, so she was proactively trying to close the loophole around that language.
Thank you for clarifying that, and I just want to ask about that bill, what is it, 407, with regard to the elections. Upon signature by the governor or approval by the governor, is that effective immediately?
President Pierce, Board Member Patterson, I believe so.
It is. It takes effect immediately. So we're guided by those rules for 2019, according to the signature of House Bill 407?
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll go to the House floor tomorrow, and have to go through Senate committee and Senate floor before getting passed by the governor.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for all your work. I appreciate all that you do. This is a tremendous amount of work and tracking. Thank you.
Any other comments from the board members? Okay, I just want to say thanks, Heather. We've talked about some things, kind of thing, and I'll continue to talk to, and all the board members will too. A lot of interesting things, I looked at 129 and it was totally rewritten, so it was a different And I'm not sure it addressed what my original concerns were, you know, about having people who are 19 and over being able to carry guns on campus, which I said, no, I don't want that. You know, that was in the original statute, and I wanted actually that part to be rewritten to say, no, only people can be carrying is school security people, and let's define school security people. Well, let's define security school people, but it doesn't necessarily take out the other part of that statute. So, you know, sometimes anyway. So appreciate it. Thank you very much, and we'll move on. Okay, thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
So we'll go on to board member comments, and I'll start down at the far end. Board member Montoya Cordova. We'll go with District 1.
Okay, sure. I just want to say thank you to the families and students and the staff that organized and facilitated last night's meeting with the Native American community. I thought the small group discussion was excellent in my team. I can only speak for my team. I think it provided an opportunity for voices to be heard and more families to participate. So I found the discussion to be really useful. So I just wanted to say thanks to the teams and everyone that got together on that. It's just because as I'm thinking about like everything that the school district has to do, I was thinking about all of these things, just the MRI schools, getting plans ready, putting all those things in place, to organizing meetings, to I just think of like all the small little, there's a bunch of little small things, and they're big things because there's an incredible amount of staff time that goes into putting everything together, whether it's our capital outlay and our budgets. And so it's just really appreciate all the work, because it seems like I see all the same people at all the same meetings. We're always at all the same meetings, whether it's board meetings or community meetings. And so thank you for your time. I also am grateful that the city was here, and wanted to thank them for including us in their anti-racism community meeting that they had last week. I found that really useful as well. It was good to get out. I liked, the small group discussion, the opportunity to meet some folks. I also got to meet some people from my community, which I thought was great. And then I just want to do just a quick shout out to a couple of schools. One to Armijo Elementary. I had a chance to go visit school. It's been a while because it was on Valentine's Day, but I forgot to mention it last time. And it was just such a nice event. It was a science night, and it was also the premier dance night for the little girls' dance team. So they got to show off their new costumes and do their new dance. It was really exciting. And the parent engagement was incredible. There was so many people there, which I thought was great. And I had a chance to polish up my Spanish and talk to my family members. And it was really exciting because I did ask them, how are things going? What do you like about our school? What do you think we could do better? And it was just overwhelmingly, everyone loved their school. They all talked about how grateful they were for the changes this year. They loved their school, and the things that they requested were so small. And they were all really appreciative of their principal. And so I left feeling, like we've made some good strides with that school, because I know that there had been some problems in the past. But everybody that night was just in such a great mood. And then I just wanted to say a shout out to Jefferson Middle School for the 2nd annual career fair, which was held yesterday. It's a career fair that they do in partnership with my agency. And every student runs through that cafeteria and is engaged in some sort of career exploration. So that also takes an incredible amount of coordination, and I appreciate the school staff being willing to do that. It's a lot of fun. My team has a blast doing it. They all like, can I go? I was like, yes, it's all right. So nobody was in my office yesterday. Everybody was at Jefferson. And then finally, I just want to say, baseball season is here. So
I'm so excited. And I'm going to a baseball game tomorrow at Rio Grande High School. So I'm excited about that. I've got it on my calendar. I am not missing it. I am going to the game. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Garcia.
Thank you. Well, I want to appreciate the efficient meeting tonight. I thought that it was very stimulating, and I think the challenges that we face every day don't always allow for us to be optimistic, but I feel very optimistic at this point. Maybe it's just me. You know, I appreciate the reminders and the challenge that we support the People's Institute and Undoing Racism training. I think that's a good idea. I'm not so sure exactly about the training from the standpoint that it feels like it's a lot of information overkill. And I think that people need to have an opportunity to process the information, sort it out. And so I would offer that as a friendly criticism. I am wondering about our relationship with the Southern Poverty Law Center and the teaching tolerance and how that reconciles with some of the training options that we have. And I would hope that maybe at some point, perhaps Board Member Patterson, that this could be an opportunity for us as part of the district equity and inclusion agenda, but to actually explore that further. You know, what we do in committees often allows us for some leeway, and I'll just raise that simply because I think in that committee in particular, our goal was to hear community voices and concerns, but also have some kind of interchange. I don't see it as a violation of ethics. I am concerned about the issue raised about special ed students and charter schools. This is something that never makes the media. This is something that really is an issue. We have folks who are skimming, creaming, whatever you want to call it, at charter schools. The applications are 20 pages in some cases, and poor people just don't have the time or the ability in terms of being able to navigate that kind of an application. And that's a problem. And I want to suggest perhaps Superintendent Reedy through the staff that we can advocate with PED to take a look at some of the contradictions in that. If you're concerned about racism, take a look at that. That's one place where it's showing up over and over again. What was raised this evening about special ed students, I don't know how to say it except for in Spanish, me da lástima. It's a big heartbreak. And we have to get better, both as an institution. APS can certainly do better, but we have to look at these most vulnerable students and families. And my hope is that we can come to some plan on how we propose to move forward. I think there is some way that we have to begin to have more real conversations, whether it's with the city or other entities that would like us to partner with them, but it has to be a process of dialogue and hopefully negotiations that we can say what our intended outcomes are and how we hope to move forward, and that we evaluate those intended outcomes as we move forward. It means changing the way we do business, and I don't know that we're always used to that. I don't think that we can just say we'll commit to a certain amount of resource to be put there without having some say in how we move forward. But I do appreciate the comments from the individuals, and I do appreciate the amount of, I think, determination that you have to hopefully be heard, and our determination to try to hear what you're saying and move forward. I think it's always difficult, but I think we can do it. Thank you.
Board Member Peterson.
Well, Superintendent Reedy already mentioned it, but we got this nice little magazine. Absolutely. I just was thumbing through it, and she already referred to the article on Leeds construction, but it was lovely with Albuquerque and what we're doing with solar energy, with sustainable thing. There's a wonderful quote by Karen Allereid: "Building LEED is a win-win-win scheme. The occupants, the taxpayers, and Mother Earth all win." And it's true. I mean, I think it's why we've made that commitment to having healthy buildings that are sustainable and wise in their construction. So that was very nice to come across. I've already somewhat gone on my equity rant, but it's a theme that I'm feeling pretty deeply, and it will continue. I will continue. Sort of started with what happened with the mill and bond levy and how the effects of that are going to ripple across the district, and then how we look at the at-risk money that comes in and what that really means for how it's used. So it's going to be I think there are going to be some hard discussions and some disagreements, but I think we can keep moving forward and work through it. I absolutely agree with the issue of charters, and one of the things that's hard is that we have absolutely zero control over the ones that are state authorized, and most of the ones in the city are indeed state authorized and are not ours. But it's something that we should check on, because I think virtually every school in the district is impacted when kids come back, because they've been, once it's discovered that they have an IEP, they're all too frequently pushed out, and we welcome them, as we should. But it means that we don't have the resources. The resources stay with the charters, and we serve the need. And it's an untenable situation long term. So it's something that we need to keep looking at. I think, I went through the anti-racism training, and it was powerful. It was a valuable thing for me. I've done enough professional development as both the recipient and the deliverer to really know that adults need to be treated with the same respect that children need to be treated with when it comes to learning, and that one format works for one person but not necessarily for everyone. And so I think the important thing for us as a district is to look at what's our long-term goal. And I think we absolutely share the goal and need to work with the city, need to work with resources. And so, what I'd like to see is to say, yes, we need to make it possible for our staff to participate. We need to let people know if there's I don't know how we can go about thinking about funding, but it's something that we could look at. But I know that there have to be lots of different opportunities. Mandating adults just like mandating children doesn't work, but we need to make sure that we're moving in a direction and honest. One of the most powerful things about the conversation last night that makes me go, okay, let's think about how we deal with this, is the discussion of whose land are we on, and how we recognize and honor whose land are we on. What would it take even, I was driving down from Santa Fe today, up to Santa Fe, because I went for the group of retirees up there today. So driving down through the Rio Grande Valley to Albuquerque, and you start thinking, land, what would it take to put little plaques in every school of whose land was this? Whose land did it become? Because, there's all sorts of land that's why is my land grant land? And where did the acequias come from? And what's the history of that? History is all around us, and we don't do enough to recognize it and talk to students about it. And it's something that it seems like would be fairly straightforward to address. But the deeper stuff really does go down to how do we perceive ourselves? What do we understand about ourselves and about that history and our relationship with the rest of the community. And that, I mean, I keep going back. One person yesterday talked about time to reflect, teachers needing time to reflect, and an environment in which they can reflect. And that's something that can't just be done with a 2-day training, even with as many people as might choose to do that. It's something that needs to be ongoing and integrated into what we do. I think one step, the work that's being done with the materials, just looking at literature, what books do we have accessible to schools? And I think a lot of work is being done in the right direction for that. So there are little pieces that are being put into place that are really important. The ethnic studies and the process that we need to go through to really have that implemented. I mean, I think we're on track. It's just painful how slow it is, and because it has to be. It's painful because it's slow, because it's working on 500 years of what this country has been and how it was established. And how do we understand that and address it and deal with it? So, opportunities, and I think teaming with the city is one really important opportunity, but it's not going to be for everyone, and it's not going to be sufficient, and that's the challenge that we have.
Thank you. Board Member Patterson.
Thank you. I want to thank those who are here today, who spoke before on the forum. I want to thank the City of Albuquerque, Equity and Inclusion, also because they reached out to us and invited, and the mayor as well, invited APS to the Antiracism place for us last Tuesday. And there were quite a number of us who were there, so it was well done, and I appreciate that. With regard to the partnership on anti-racism, I think this is something we need to do. We've been talking about it. I think it is time that we do this. I know we're looking at the budget right now. We're going to approve the budget, and I think it is our responsibility to take a look at this really hard. I think I've seen a lot of things. I've heard a lot of things, actually, and what happened at Siebel. I think it is time that we do the anti-racism training, and we do it now. We can decide how we do this in partnership with the City of Albuquerque, and let's look at that budget and let's put it in our budget. That should be part of our staff development, should be our training. There's no reason we just can't do this. We should be able to do it. We can figure this out once we take a look and see how much it would cost. And we can do it in steps and phases. We don't have to do it all at once, but it has to be done. And stuff. So, and one of the things that I wanted to address was Superintendent Reedy. On January the 23rd, we had the SuperSAC, the Superintendent's Student Advisory Council. And, you know, the students want to participate in what we do or want a voice on the board. And I'm wondering what has happened to that. This was on January the 23rd. I just want us to, I want to make sure that we respond to this. They came before the District Equity and Inclusion Committee meeting, and I want to make sure that we do respond to that, because that was a recommendation they made. And I just...
We'll look into that.
Okay, if you would, please. And then I had an opportunity to go to the open house at CEC and ran across the student exchange program, which I found rather interesting, but I had forwarded that information to Dr. Serna Marmol to look at, and perhaps at some point have a presentation on that, on what they do. It sounds really exciting and an opportunity for our students. And really and truly a jewel here in our district, among all others, is the Spanish spelling bee. It was so much fun. We were serenaded by the mariachi from Atrisco Heritage, and then there was a performance by Baila Baila. But you know what was interesting is that we had students from elementary to high school, and the winner was, you know, they're all winners. They're all winners, quite frankly, that they were able to get up there and spell some of the most difficult words I've ever heard. And so, you know, it was a middle school student that won, and it was your district, Van Buren. And it was Marion. But, you know, Superintendent Reedy, I really think we need to recognize all of these students who were there. I think we need to bring them to the board, they come before the board and recognize these students. They were so outstanding, they did a great job. And I think it would behoove us to do that.
We'll look into that, absolutely.
All right, thank you. Thank you. You know, I love music, you know, it's one of those things that, I attended I went to El Dorado High School to the Performing Arts, and once again, Dr. Marmel, always working, she was there. And I had an opportunity to listen to the 4th and 5th grade honor choir, and it was so interesting because not only did they, you know, it's interesting what the teachers are able to do with this honored choir. What they did is they actually sang music, New Mexican music by Harry Belafonte, and Dene music. I thought that was so interesting, so unique, for 45 minutes, and I just wanted more, but obviously, you know, that's the time allocated for that. And I want to tell you, there was standing room only. I mean, the Performing Arts Center was oozing with people. They were all even outside trying to get in. So I was lucky that I was able to get in and stuff. But so I want to thank you, and I would thank all of you. Thank you.
Board Member Patterson, since you're talking about spelling, you need to know that I was in Coronado Elementary was it last week? Must have been last Friday. And I was in a kindergarten room. You know, mind you, they've been in school a semester, and they're studying Spanish. And those children could read the word murciélago. Oh. Which is a very difficult word in Spanish.
Yes,
They were studying bats, and they knew all about murciélagos and how many syllables were in that word, and this is kindergarten.
Wow, isn't that amazing? So I think we need to recognize the work that is being done also, and the teachers that do all of this work. And I know Dr. Marmel and Miss Jessica Villalobos, outstanding work. Well done. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Superintendent.
Very good. Board Member Armijo.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Piercy. Member Montoya Cordova, yes, it is baseball season. And yes, we play Rio Grande on the 9th. And you're going down. so. Oh, man. Just wanted to bring that up. I also want to mention that today, March 6th, is Educational Assistance Day. We have nearly 2,000 in APS, and about 80% of them work in special education. So I just wanted to honor all of our EAs tonight, and they need a special recognition for everything that they do, so thank you. I also wanted to bring up, Bill doesn't know this yet, but we've joined the APS Challenge that starts on March 25th. And we will be tracking our steps, and we will be part of the Walker Tracker Challenge that starts March 25th. So just giving you a heads up, Bill, that I signed you up to. So again, I'm pleased to chair the Capital Outlay Planning and Technology Committee. So I look forward to working with that group over the next year and a half now. So I think Janet Sayers has already left the room, but you know, as a board member, I'd love to send thank you notes to the businesses that she brought up tonight that are providing so much support to the teachers and in her school. So I think she's already left the room, but I'd love to find out more information on how we can send just a personal note from myself. Thank you to Superintendent Reedy for tonight's report. It's always great to hear good news about APS, so thank you for that. We so need that, so I appreciate that. Thank you to our Albuquerque High School color guard tonight, too, for being here. It's always an honor to have that start our meetings off with. So thank you to all who shared the encouragement and support for us to attend the Undoing Racism trainings. We appreciated what you put on last year, and we look forward to attending this year as well. Such an important opportunity for us to work together and to move forward together as a community. And you both have a long-standing reputation for providing that in our community, so thank you for that. I'd also love to get more information on the New Mexico History Conference that Janet Sayers brought up as well. I'd like to see the agenda. I'm curious to see what they would be covering as well. So if you can get that for us. The Native American Forum that we attended last night, I also felt like there was really positive interactions in we broke up into groups, discussed certain objectives, came back with ideas into a larger group. And so I really did feel like there was a lot of positive interactions and conversations that came out of that. Again, the process does feel long sometimes, and we just want to jump to being able to do things, but we understand that process is key in reference to sustainability and success. So I do appreciate that we did have that second forum last night. I do appreciate the conversations that we had and what's come out of that, and all of the work that your department has put into that. So thank you for that. And thank you to all of you for being here this evening.
Thank you, board members. Well, you've said a lot of the things that I wanted to say, which is always wonderful because it enables me to take credit for what you guys are saying. But very first, I really appreciate Michelle being here from the city. I think it's a great opportunity for us to collaborate and actually be a part of a systemic solution across our whole city, all of our schools, the city itself. And so I think we need to look into that collaboration and how that might work, how we might share funding, how we might do that. And there may be many opportunities besides just the ART, training, but other kinds of training as well, the forum that they held before. So I think there's lots of opportunities here for us. And so I think that's a really good way to do things because I think it treats the systemic issues that we need to deal with, the system issues, the institutionalization issues. I think when we deal with individuals, it's just an individual kind of thing. And so we need to get all those individuals part of that kind of a conversation. Because I think when we solve multiple problems, we address all those issues. And I think it's hard, but I think that's the way that we need to go because that's the way we can sustain this. So I think that's a really good way to think about that. Again, I love Janet being here. Thank you. She's from Del Norte. She's from my wife's graduating class. I know them very well. And she's just a wonderful, positive, get out there and get things done. And so I really appreciate all the things she's doing. And so all the things that you mentioned, Liz, like what is the New Mexico History Conference about? And I think it's great for us to send to these 3 businesses she mentioned that we actually send a thank you to those businesses. I've actually gone down out of my way to go down to Chick-fil-A and eat there. And I say every time I go there, I say thank you so much for supporting Del Norte High School because it's really important. And those people are so pleasant about all that. They're happy to hear that. They're happy to hear that because they know they're being supported. So I don't drink coffee at Starbucks, so I'm sorry about that. But
I think we could honor them one night.
I think that'd be good to honor them one night.
They could bring the Chick-fil-A and the Starbucks.
They could bring sandwiches and but I think that's really important. And we just little things. These people who work really hard, they're sitting there, just doing their job. And when somebody comes up and says, I really appreciate what you guys are doing, that just makes their day. And that's important. So I think that's really, really important thing to do. I like those kind of things, and I appreciate all the comments, and I think that we can work towards a lot of these things. So I'm very positive about that. I'm really happy about the article we had in our newsletter. I think it explains very well what we're trying to say here about what quality means in our facilities and how we get that funding back. The lead funding is very small compared to what we get back in terms of a better facility, a more cost-effective facility for utilities and everything else. We get that back tenfold. And what they're doing with the WEC community, with the WEC committee, is wonderful. We saved $2 million in terms of utility costs in I think the last year. And what they're doing with the partnership, they have a partnership with P&M, they have a partnership with Sandia Labs, they have a partnership with other districts. We're talking about Rio Rancho, we're talking about Los Lunas, we're talking about Moriarty, so in Santa Fe. We're talking about a real partnership here that is helping us understand how do we really not only just save money, we're talking about saving resources. So we have a goal of 20% reduction in our energy use by 2024, and they're well on their way to getting that done. So those are things that are important, you know. I think they're helping us in terms of that. And we have this collaboration again. We mentioned the collaboration, you know, with the city. The city's part of that collaboration, you know. And so that's what's really important here is how we're working this so that we actually are better and more efficient. So I like that a lot. You know, since the last board meeting, I've been at 10 different events. 10 different events. Some are multiple days. You know, our NMSA board meetings were multiple days.
Yep.
But I see so many great things. The Inez Expo I go to every year. You know, my wife worked there for many years in Inez, and to see all these kids, every kid participates in a science project. The science project may be a display, it may be a collection, it may be a real experiment, but all those kids do this. And because it's not judged, they actually do the work themselves for the most part. You know what I mean? And to sit there and just let them explain what they're doing and ask them questions. And they're so proud of what they're doing, you know? It's just wonderful to do that. I went to the Community School Principal Academy just a little while, where the principals are all learning about the community schools. What a great training activity, you know? I went to the Wary Max Breakfast Games, you know, where these, you know, they're celebrating breakfast, you know, and celebrating drinking milk and
In very silly ways.
in very silly ways, and having games that they're playing. And then they had Tyron Crawford here, you know, as a defensive end for the Dallas Cowboys. You know, I'm not a Dallas Cowboy fan, but I'm happy to be able to shake hands with a real pro and somebody who's taken time out to say this is important. This is important for our kids to understand that physical fitness, health, and eating good breakfast and so forth is important. You know, it's great stuff. And you know, I normally don't comment on our individual committee meetings and that, but you know, the DEI meeting last week was wonderful. You know, there were so many positive things about what we're doing in ELLs and bilingual education and the literacy stuff that the library's doing. Yep. You know, I just sat there and said, this is nice, you know, this is really nice. And this is stuff that needs to be known by people because we are doing that. And they're looking at all this inclusion kind of, you know, like in the library. What are we doing to make sure that our books really do provide the right kind of information, which is not always the case, right? And looking at that inclusion aspect. Yeah. So, you know, we're doing some good things there. I went to the Sea Perch underwater robotics thing. Holy Toledo. All those kids were just sitting there and they were diving into the pool. They had their little robotics things and they're trying to figure out how they're submerging because they have to go through these little obstacle courses, and the obstacle courses are underwater. So you got to submerge your little robotic thing and maneuver it around these little obstacles and come back out. And it's a great thing. I was a state judge in the DECA, you know. You hear these people come in and talk about personal finance literacy and what I needed to do to help my personal finances. I was pretty impressed. I mean, one person came in, had a nice little, I mean, they have to do this in 10 minutes. They get a problem to solve, and in 10 minutes, they've got to come in and decide what they're going to say to you as the junior in high school. It was great to be a junior in high school again. I'm not sure, I'm just a little old looking, but still it was junior. But they come in 10 minutes. One of these guys comes in, he has a nice pie chart. And not only does he have a pie chart, he has ranges in this little pie chart about things you might do to support this particular problem solving. Explains very much about the values that you need to have as an individual. You know, and so, you know, it's great stuff. And it's part of the CTE, right? It's part of the CTE, guys. It's part of experiential learning and what these kids are doing. And I just walked around and I listened and I watched the students. I watched them gather together and talk about all their different things they're doing, you know. It's impressive, you know, it's impressive. I went to Baltimore. I missed my 4th grade honor choir. but I got to see my 15-year-old granddaughter in Legally Blonde. She was wonderful. Oh, Toledo.
It's okay.
So, you know, the kind of things schools are doing. I mean, we're talking about 3 leads in this. And she was a pretty good lead. She was part of the sorority girls, and she had a little solo that she sang. But the 3 leads in this were, I mean, you talk about really good. I'm talking about, they're all going to music scholarships in college. Great kids. And they had, I was going to count this up. I'll bet they had 30 people who were assigned to the stage help, to the stage hands, to all those things. They had another 15 people, 20 people in the actual lead cast. They had another maybe 20 or 30 people in the dance corps and the ensembles and so forth. A huge amount of kids in this production. It was fantastic. So yeah, and you know, on the March 5th, we had the community forum, open forum. I thought we had good discussion. My group that was wonderful. I mean, my group had 2 University of New Mexico professors, had 2 people from NACA, the NACA connection, had my super sap gal, Husky, from Volcano Vista, and they really discussed the issues. They discussed the issues around the questions, but they discussed the context that was really important. And then we let the Valley High School girl do a report out. She was wonderful, really on point, went to the point of what we were talking about. I mean, I was impressed. And there was another person in one of the groups from the high school that also did a report out, did a wonderful job. So I was impressed. I thought it was great to have UNM folks be kind of the facilitators this time. I think that was great. So that was just wonderful. And I'm really looking forward to the La Cueva Camarada Orchestra performing here in this Thursday. They're going to perform for the American Strings Teachers Association National Conference. This is the first time any kind of a New Mexico has ever been asked to perform at that conference. So, and they are really good. The Camarada String is really good. So, great stuff going on, guys. Great stuff going on, you know, in our schools. Things we need to work on. You know, we've talked about that. I got the legislative conference coming up here this next week or so, March 16th through the 19th, and try to work with board members and try to get in to see our legislators. And so if you guys have any questions you want to ask the legislators, let me know, and I'll try to get that. I'm interested to meet some of our new ones, you know, Sosa Small and Deb Hallen. I know Ben Ray, and I know, of course, Udall and Heinrich, but I'd like to see that. Also, we have this July 28th, 31st Harvard training. I think that's a great opportunity for our board. I know that I think pretty much everybody signed up. I know Candy's, we're working on the accessibility kinds of things, and we'll see how that works out. You know, I think, again, this is a lesson to those people. You know, if we have people that need accessibility things, they need to know how to do that, right? And so this may be a nice thing for them to research about how to do that and make sure that, you know, County feels comfortable in terms of being able to go to this. But, so, yeah.
Teach them something. Huh?
And the other thing is that I want to make sure that the last thing here is that since we have pretty much the same group here in committees and so forth, make sure that you get immediately any changes that you might want to have about the days when our committee meetings are. And I think, you know, Liz, you had one change that you might want to make.
Yeah, 6 a.m.
She said 7:30 wasn't quite early enough.
Ain't coming. Won't be.
We want to make sure that you can get out to your schools early, you know.
Oh, geez.
You know, we're trying to be
4 o'clock?
trying to be accommodating.
From the west side way
It
easier.
may be easier at 6 a.m.
Well, you know, when we have the MRI schools and they start at 7:30, so we need to get you out to those schools, you know, by that time. Yeah. But anyway, I don't know if there are any changes for other things. I think probably the audit's the same. I know our regular board meetings are the same. I don't know if, you know, Candy, if you want to do the DEI kind of the way you've done it. But please let Brenda know as soon as possible, because they need to turn that around right away to be able to get those meeting notices out on the calendar. And
At
Barbara,
6
same
a.m.,
thing
we'll
with.
do ours at 7 a.m.
Yeah, yeah, she can do it early, really early, yeah. We know the community wants to be out early, right?
Yeah, right.
So, anyway, so please do that as soon as you possibly can, okay? So that's really all I have. I appreciate, again, the meeting. I appreciate the audience, people coming and speaking. I'm sure that we can work something out here to make sure that we have a real systemic solution to what we're trying to do here. And as we mentioned, you know, there are just all kinds of things that we need to address, you know. Certainly the ethnic things, certainly the race, directly the race things, but a lot of differences we need to work on. You know, what are those differences, and what's the power issue that goes into this, you know? And it can be within ethnic groups, it can be cross-ethnic groups, it can be male-female, it can be LGBT, it can be lots of different areas here. And so hopefully we can look for systemic solutions to those things, you know. Certainly we're working on the Native American. That's an immediate thing. We're working on that, but we want to make that part of a systemic approach to how we really deal with this, so that we can solve lots of problems, not just one area, and then do bad in another area. You know, that's not going to work very well. I think we tend to do that sometimes. You know, we do one-off solutions, and then we find out there's another problem we have. So see if we can work on that. You know, I think it's important. So anyway. That's what I have, and the next Board of Education meeting will be Wednesday, March 20th here, and the next Special Education meeting will be Monday, March 25th at 7:30 here in the DeLeo Martin room. So thank you, and we are adjourned.
Thank you, Dr. Pearson.
Necesitas